this call by the president.
Jeb Bush told supporters in Urbandale the president's not a good messenger. He even compared him to Donald Trump.
A president that will try to find common ground with people and forge consensus and stand on principle, but never just as the first impulse divide us. The front-running candidate for the Republican nomination has this same tendency. He does.
Dr. Steffen Schmidt, professor of politics at Iowa State University, joins us now to hash out our theme this week of why can't politicians come together? So we want to ask you, do you think that anything can be done in order to fix this huge divide between the Democrats and Republicans in Washington? And did the president even do anything with this speech?
Well, I think the American people seem to want Congress to work. They want Democrats and Republicans to get things done. You don't have to agree on everything, but you can't simply just have gridlock, because then you can't solve problems. And I think it will take a new president before this can come together, because President Obama, in fact, is now a lame duck president. It's the end of his term. He has not been a good communicator. He has not really reached out even to Democrats, his own party in the House and Senate. And so I think it's going to take somebody else. But that president is going to have to, I think, try and work with people from the opposition, because I don't think any party is going to have an overwhelming majority in Congress to be able to go alone.
You're going to have to learn to work together. Now, Nikki Haley echoed a similar theme in her official GOP response. So do you think that this will be a message that seems to be popping up more and more among mainstream Republicans?
Well, you use the word mainstream. That is perfect, because a lot of very conservative Republicans were angry at Governor Haley because she was talking about, working with the Democrats and so on. And there is a piece of the Republican Party, and there may be a piece of the Democratic Party as well, that just can't stand the other party, that thinks that that you're giving up and giving in and surrendering if you work with the other party. And so Nikki Haley only represents one portion of the Republican Party, and we don't know if it's the majority or not. We're going to have to wait until this all sorts out and until the elections take place.
Well, do you think that it's worse because we are in a primary season? I mean, do you think maybe some more moderate temperament will come out after they've maybe gotten that right-wing vote in the...
And the left-wing vote in the case of the Democrats, because that party is divided as well. And the answer is, you're absolutely right, Sabrina. In the middle of a heated campaign, when people are wanting to get attention and want to get the nomination, it's very difficult to concede to the opposition and be nice. We know that you throw a lot of mud during campaigns. We don't like it. It seems to happen every 2 years and every 4 years. And once the election is over, hopefully, there will be some policy issues on which the Republicans and Democrats can come together, and conservatives and liberals can come together.
Let's quickly talk about Paul Ryan before we go to break. Do you think that he'll be able to usher in a new era of Congress being able to work together after the success that we saw with the budget bill?
I think Paul Ryan would like some parts of this to work. He certainly did magic. I mean, he got a big budget passed. He got a couple of bills passed that were sort of stuck. But I think he is still a conservative Republican, and he's not going to really yield on a lot of the issues that the conservative Republicans, and most of the party is conservative now, wants to hang tough on. But I think the change from Boehner at least opens up an opportunity for him to put together a coalition of people in the House, and he may even have to get some Democrats to vote. I mean, Boehner didn't want to have any bills passed that Democrats were necessary for. He wanted 100% Republican passage. That's very difficult to do, and I think Ryan is a little more willing to have some legislation that both parties like.
Well, Steffen, you'll stick with us, and coming up next, we recap the Republican debate and the new back and forth that's emerged over who's actually eligible to run for president.
This is not just disappearing jobs. It's what the national debt could do. At $18 trillion and growing, it's threatening to harm our economy. As the debt grows, money for other programs like education will shrink. In just 8 years, interest on the debt will be our third largest federal program. Bad news for our bridges and roads. The good news? There's still time for a solution. Ask the candidates for a plan to secure our future.
The Johnsons, the Hecks, the Wongs, the Goldbergs. Now, meet the divorcing, gay, anorexic, thieving Irish Catholic O'Neills.
I took a vow of poverty.
Does your Lexus know that?
They're coming for us! Shannon is doing nothing!
disorder.
I stole Marsha Worthman's purse.
All right.
Drive, Pat. Drive fast.
The Real O'Neills. Series premiere Tuesday, March 8th on ABC.
Here's a missed moment from The Bachelor.
This is a great way to break the ice.
Not pass can.
Kevin, I appreciate your advice today, but this hot tub is for 2 people.
Let's go, man. Let's leave this couple to themselves, man. It's time to go.
Kevin is great. He's so funny. But all I'm thinking is, hey, Kevin, would you mind just...
Missed Moments on The Bachelor is brought to you by Orton Homes. Watch The Bachelor Monday at 7 on Local 5.
An all-new exclusive.
Colombia!
It was the mistake seen live around the world.
I have to apologize. Miss Universe is Philippines.
Now, for the first time, Miss Colombia and Miss Universe face Steve Harvey. The controversy.
Steve Harvey.
The rumors. Steve Harvey takes your questions. The 2-day interview. Miss Universe, the truth.
Monday at 2 on Local 5.
Tuesday, February 2nd, a brand new year means brand new Muppets.
Consider me.
Welcome back, everyone. We move now to what's new in the Republican race this week. So let's start by taking a look at where things stand in our latest Iowa poll. It's Donald Trump and Ted Cruz who've run away pretty much with the race here in Iowa at this point. Marco Rubio is the only one that's even close, but still more than 10 points behind those top two. Ben Carson, once in the lead in Iowa, has dropped off to just 7% support now. Chris Christie is there with 4%. All right, so we want to talk about this newfound Trump-Cruz rivalry that has definitely started.
Now, several months back, Stefan, you are actually the one, we were just talking about this in break, that you predicted on this show that Donald Trump would start playing the birther card against Ted Cruz once Ted Cruz started to show up, a little bit creeping up on him in the polls. You were right. It even came up in the debate Thursday night. So Cruz was forced to defend himself. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Back in September, my friend Donald said that he had had his lawyers look at this from every which way. And there was no issue there. There was nothing to this birther issue. Now, since September, the Constitution hasn't changed. But the poll numbers have.
So, Stefan, you and I have spoken about this quite a bit now. Do you think this is fair that he's doing this, or, I mean, is he just creating noise?
Look, the word fair comes up all the time. I just got a text message from someone saying it wasn't fair. This is politics. In politics, you know, all is fair in love and war and politics, as they say. And it had to come up. I mean, it had to come up because it's come up with other candidates. McCain, it came up. McCain was born in the Panama Canal Zone, which was a U.S. territory, and so there was no question that he was okay. But if you're born in Canada, it wasn't so clear. And even if constitutionally it is not a real legal issue, you know, it is a political issue. And now there's a lawsuit that's just been filed in Houston against Cruz for him to kind of demonstrate that he actually is a natural-born U.S. citizen, which the Constitution says is required. So what it means is, politically, it's very bad for Cruz because it's drip, 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 drip. It's going to come up like Hillary Clinton's emails. Every week it's going to be another episode of it. So that's where we are right now.
So you think this will actually, it will have an impact?
Well, it's going to have legs because a lot of people, you know, they're probably not very comfortable with a Cuban-Canadian running for President of the United States if there is some question about whether it's constitutional or not. And I personally think it's probably he's okay. It's constitutional. But politically, I think it's more complicated and there are some nuances. There's the Supreme Court. Remember, I said this on this show as well. The Supreme Court has never ruled on exactly what that means in the Constitution.
The natural-born right. The natural-born American.
Exactly. So it's open for some controversy.
Okay, so Donald Trump did also, in the debate, make a bit of a joke. It's kind of a snide remark that he would have Ted Cruz as his running mate for VP. I mean, would you ever see those two on a ticket together?
Absolutely not. It is absolutely forbidden for anyone who has run against you in the caucuses and primaries to then become your running mate, because you have different positions, you have different views, and you have a lot of ego. I mean, if you're running for president, you have huge ego, and if you are the president, you don't want your vice president to have an enormous ego, because he'll just get in your way. So that was a cute little thing, and you know, sort of demeaning to Cruz to say, well, I'm going to be president, but maybe I'll have you as my vice president. And then Cruz, of course, came right back, right?
Yeah.
And said, well, if I'm president, maybe I'll pick you as my vice president, which, of course, would never happen either.
Only room for one ego, though.
That's one ego. That's all you can have in the White House.
Now, on Friday, Jeb Bush won the endorsement of Senator Lindsey Graham. The South Carolina senator dropped out of the presidential race last month. He said his #1 issue is national security, and that's why Jeb is his guy. So, will this help Jeb Bush at all?
Well, I think the 3 people who were supporting Lindsey Graham, I mean, in the polls, there were probably 3 or 4 people in the country. They may say, well, if Lindsey is endorsing you know, Jeb Bush, then I will too. But I don't think Lindsey Graham has a huge constituency. On the other hand, he represents the establishment of the Republican Party. Lindsey Graham does.
Right.
And the establishment is looking desperately for someone besides Trump and Cruz. You know, there are about 3 or 4 Republicans who fit that establishment picture, and I think the party is trying to figure out which one of those to rally around, and that was maybe the opening shot of that.
Do you think the establishment can win the nomination?
Very difficult. It's very difficult because nowadays we don't have smoke-filled rooms with party bosses saying you're going to be our candidate. The voters decide, they pick delegates, the delegates go to the convention, and if you don't get those delegates, you know, you're not going to get nominated. So I think it's going to be a hard job for either Rubio or Jeb Bush or one of them to surge up. But it's possible. It's possible that once people drop out and there is a smaller field, let's say there are 3 or 4 left, it's possible that Rubio will, for example, or Jeb Bush, will attract some of the moderate Republicans, establishment Republicans who don't like Cruz or Trump.
That'll be interesting.
Coming up next, we are going to talk about the Democratic poll shocker this week. It's a front-runner flip-flop that happened here in Iowa. That's when we come back.
Tuesday, February 2nd, a brand new year means brand new Muppets.
Consider me updated! Oh, Piggy, let me go get you a roll.
Key and Peele guest stars.
Huge! Yes.
And big changes are on the way.
We're going to replace that sidekick bear with a YouTube kid who can make noises with his mouth.
I can make noises with my mouth. Watch this. Oh, I am so fired.
The Muppets, all new Tuesday, February 2nd on ABC.
The person who lives here has to solve problems as big as the world and as small as your kitchen table. That's the job, every day. And now, the First Lady who helped get health care for 8 million kids. The Senator who helped a city rise again. The Secretary of State who stood up for America and stared down hostile leaders around the world is the one candidate for president who has everything it takes to do every part of the job. She'll never let anyone privatize Social Security and Medicare or shut down Planned Parenthood. She'll take on the gun lobby, finally get equal pay for women, and stop the Republicans from ripping all our progress away. So on February 1st, stand up for Hillary, because if you want a president who knows how to keep America safe and build a stronger economy, Hillary's the choice.
I'm listening to you, I'm fighting for you, and with your support, I'm going to deliver.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Welcome back, everyone. We talked Republican polls and frontrunners, but now let's move on to the Dems. There was a shocker in that latest Iowa Quinnipiac poll out this week. A new frontrunner for the Dems, Bernie Sanders, has overtaken Hillary Clinton, leading among likely caucus goers here in Iowa 49 to 44%, which is outside the margin of error. Of course, Martin O'Malley with 4%.
So what do you think, Dr. Schmidt? Shocker?
It's not a shocker because Bernie Sanders has been gaining so much momentum.
It's true.
And his people are so enthusiastic. You know, we'll have to see if they turn out for the caucuses, but it really is a huge problem for Hillary Clinton. She was not expecting this to happen again.
Do you think Sanders could actually, if he does well here in Iowa, I won't say even win, but if he does well, that he has a chance to win the nomination?
He has a chance to win the nomination. He has enthusiasm all over the country. It's just unbelievable. He's like the Donald Trump of the Democrats.
Yeah, he really
Huge
is.
crowds, enthusiastic. But will they turn out to vote? That's the big question.
So what would the path look like in order for him to actually get the nomination?
Oh, he'll have to go like Obama. He'll have to go long, all the way to June, because he's not going to do well in some of these primaries where Hillary Clinton has it all locked up. But he can go long and pick up delegates in all kinds of places that Hillary Clinton isn't interested in. That's what Barack Obama did in 2008. That's why he won. And I think Bernie Sanders can duplicate that. So it's a real challenge for the Clinton campaign.
A few more seconds here. The criticism of Bernie Sanders and other Democrats who were originally lower tier candidates was that the Democratic debates were so low profile, and they really have been. There's another one Sunday night, tonight. The thought was that this only helped Hillary Clinton. Is that the case?
Well, I think the other candidates wanted more exposure, and I think it is the case. But it hasn't worked out that way. I mean, Bernie Sanders is surging ahead in the polls, so obviously the number of debates they had was enough for him to score.
All right, thanks a lot. Coming up next, we're going to move right on to another subject matter, bipartisanship. We talked about it a little earlier show. Not only the big message behind the president